I'm Dr. Kendra Strauss from the Labor Studies program, and I'm presenting today on research that has been undertaken collaboratively with Iglika Ivanova, Senior Economist with the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. And I join you today from the traditional territories of the Lekwungen-speaking people of the Wasanich, Esquimalt, and Songhees nations. So precarious employment is understood as an increasing trend in many countries, including Canada. And what we mean by precarious employment are jobs that are temporary or part-time, poorly paid, with low autonomy and few occupational benefits, training, or advancement opportunities. So research in other parts of Canada, in particular Ontario, and with particular groups. So for example, the CCPA has done research with professionals across Canada, has confirmed this trend, but less is known about the situation in BC. And this is in part because Statistics Canada data collection through instruments like the Labour Force Survey have not really caught up with the reality of precarious employment and gig work. In other words, those surveys don't ask some of the questions that we need to understand employment today. So in the fall of 2019, we commissioned a representative BC-wide survey of more than 3,000 workers aged 25 to 65 to understand the nature and extent of precarious employment. In analyzing the results or the data from this survey, we used an employment precarity index developed in and through the PEPSO project in Ontario, which combines 10 measures of employment insecurity. I won't read them, you can see them on the slide. But what we found when we used this index to analyze the data is that, in fact, workers who fall in the precarious category are more numerous in BC in 2019 than they were in Greater Toronto in 2014. We also in 2019 had fewer workers in the most secure category than in Toronto. So precarious employment is an issue in BC. We asked a number of questions that covered a variety of dimensions of precarious employment, and a couple of findings really highlight the situation of precarious workers. A large share of BC workers get no benefits from their employer, so that's almost 30%. Only 54% have extended health coverage, and only 47% had access to any paid sick days. Moreover, it's not just a big city issue. Secure work was actually less common in northern BC and the interior than Metro Vancouver and Vancouver Island. We found that some workers are more likely to have access to good jobs than others, and in particular, precarious employment is racialized. And many workers in BC suffer financial impacts of precarious employment. Finally, we discovered that access to childcare and elder care are real barriers to work for too many British Columbians. So this bar chart just shows that white workers are overrepresented in the category of the most secure employment, and while precarious employment is, almost evenly distributed in across those groups, we see that Indigenous and racialized workers are less likely to be in those secure jobs. So what are the implications of this research? This is a snapshot that provided us with an insight into the BC labor market before the pandemic. We know that COVID-19 is likely to intensify existing inequalities in access to secure jobs that provide adequate income and benefits. As we've also seen with the pandemic, the lack of access to paid sick days is a public health issue. And the fact that more than half of workers in BC have no access to paid sick days has clearly had impacts that we have been able to see during the pandemic. Intersecting crises, so pandemic unemployment, housing crisis, mental health addictions, unsafe drug supply, all increase what we call multidimensional precarity. So that's precarity within, but also beyond unemployment. And we believe that the BC labor market is likely to become more polarized and unequal during and after COVID. More research is needed to inform an equitable recovery that is not simply a return to normal, if a return to normal is precarious employment for too many British Columbians. Thank you.